Welcome to BiogasWorld's Canada Month webinar discussing the opportunities and challenges of the Canadian biogas market. As a reminder, this webinar is being recorded and will be shared with participants following the webinar. In addition, if you have any questions for our presenters, we invite you to write them in the chat, and we will ask our presenters following their presentations or in the Q&A at the end of the webinar. BiogasWorld hosts new country-focused webinars each month to discuss the opportunities and challenges within various markets. Be sure to join us on our biogas community website for the latest updates and to network with companies in the biogas and RNG industry. I would like to thank our presenters for joining us today. Raphael Duquette, Vice President of Projects and Strategy with Qarbonex. David Baton, Business Development Manager for the biogas sector with BAEUR Compressors. And Sergey Baranov, Area Manager for Canada with DMT Clear Gas Solutions. Before we begin our presentations, I will take just a moment to share some insights from the Canadian biogas and RNG market. Just put that up here. You can see my presentation.
Yes, Ryan.
Perfect. Okay, so looking left, we see there are approximately 175 biogas facilities in Canada, the majority of which are located on agricultural sites and at landfills. Wastewater treatment facilities and commercial sites and municipal sites account for about a quarter of facilities. However, this number has been slowly increasing in recent years. Looking over to the right to how biogas is utilized in Canada, we can see that over half of facilities are burning the biogas for electricity and heat in CHP engines. Flares, heat, and direct use projects are slowly becoming less common as larger projects look to more effectively valorize these gases. However, flares are still considered at some smaller projects with low outputs. Finally, we can see that there are approximately 30 RNG sites, or 19% of all facilities. Many of these projects are located at agricultural sites, landfills, and municipal projects. Moving towards what's in development, on the left, we see the most significant growth for new agricultural facilities. Landfills, municipal, and commercial projects account for the majority of the remainder. Other in that graph represent second-generation facilities, for example, processing woody biomass. Then on the right, we've broken down the location of new biogas projects in Canada, Quebec, and Ontario. On the right, we've broken down the location of new biogas projects in Canada. Quebec and Ontario in the east account for the majority of new developments, with a small portion split between British Columbia and Alberta in Western Canada. So thank you for your attention for that overview. I'll now move into the presentations. Our first presenter is Raphael Duquette. Raphael is Vice President of Projects and Strategy with Qarbonex.
Yes, hi everyone. Hello everyone. I'm gonna share my screen. First, thanks to BiogasWorld for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to talk with you, everyone. What I'm gonna do is just a brief introduction on Qarbonex, what we're doing. And I'll discuss the opportunities and challenges that we are seeing in the province here in Quebec. So first, let me introduce you to Qarbonex, what we do. We're an engineering firm, independent engineering firm. Specialize in RNG projects, biogas project. Where our mission is to help the RNG and biogas market to develop optimally in Canada, and to do so we offer different services from really the beginning of the projects to the operation of the project. So helping the developers finding feedstock, finding sites, helping them manage your project, to project engineering, preliminary detail engineering, construction supervision, and up to the operation, commissioning, operation, and help maybe facilities that are operating already and that are struggling, or they want to optimize their process. We can help on that front as well. And we also design training for operations, for engineering firms, for even financial institutions that are curious, or they want to know more about what's anaerobic digestion projects, and what do they need to look at when they finance such a project. So this is something we can do. So as you can see, we can offer services on every stages of development of a project. Our team, our engineers, analysts has worked on more than 30 projects worldwide, and there's some of the projects they've worked on, and we are operating a plant here in the province in Quebec. So to talk about the main topic, the opportunities and the challenges in Quebec, in the province, what we see is that there's unequal, I'd say, conditions in the market right now. Like if you look back like 15 years ago, in Quebec, there was not much to be done here, but now there's like many conditions that makes it possible to do projects here. There's subsidy programs that are advantages, like the government set up like a program of 260 million dollar program dedicated solely on RNG projects. They subsidize project up to 15 millions, and the project is now under review. But what we see and what we hear is that that program will probably be enhanced to give even more opportunities for new projects. Other good thing is that the gas distributors in the province have ambitious goals. They want to get to 10% by 2030, which represents approximately 500 million cubic meter, and they can go up to $45 per GJ and a price guaranteed on up to 20 years. And the other thing that is really interesting is that most of the projects that we see in the province are pretty much like our SSO or municipal project or landfill projects. So there's a lot of potential or feedstock that are not used right now in the province on the agricultural side, and there's a lot of material available and projects or potential on that specific market. So what you see here is the different projects that are either in construction or already injecting in the grid. Like I said, most of the projects are either landfill or municipal projects. And what you see, the green color, like the darker it gets, the more dense material is available. So what you see is that there is a lot of territories that are not served by any project, and there's a lot of feedstock available in the agricultural sector, and that's a huge opportunity for farmers here to get new sources of revenues, and to decrease their GHG emissions and carbon footprint. So, and right now, like Ryan, you were talking about like 35 projects that are coming. There's a lot of those projects that are in development and will enter in detail engineering and construction in the coming months. And we're involved in more than 10 projects right now, and we're still looking at other projects in the province. Challenges right now, there's like, yes, a lot of opportunities, and like the market is growing in the province, but there's still some challenges in terms of social acceptability. Of course, there's still a lack of knowledge on the benefits of RNG in the province, and it increases or increases the not in my backyard phenomenon, because people don't like really know what is RNG, what's the benefits. They don't know that like it's the only renewable energy that can be carbon negative. They don't know that they have there's other benefits than GHG reduction on the agricultural sector, like odor reduction and all the and digestate that could decrease the usage of chemical fertilizers. So there's a lot of lack of knowledge, which makes it difficult to make it on this to make project progress on that front. Regulatory consistency. There's, yes, ambitious governmental targets on reducing GHG emission, but and increasing the amount of RNG produced in the province, but there's also inconsistency with the laws and regulation here. Biomethane or anaerobic digestion guidelines, fertilizers guidelines as well are not adapted for agricultural projects here, and it makes it more difficult to have ag project in the province. And the accessibility of the gas network, I think it's the same problem or challenge everywhere in Canada, but in Quebec, the grid is mostly concentrated in the major cities. So if you're talking about agricultural projects, they're most of them are far from the grid, so there's like difficulties to access to it, and the injection cost is still very high, which makes it difficult to have projects that are economically viable because of the injection cost. Yeah, so those are a couple of challenges that we see, but like I said, I've been in the market for more than 15 years now, and I'd say that it's a very good time to be in Quebec and in this market, because there's a lot of opportunities, there's a lot of good incentives to have new projects, and it's a good time to be here. So thank you.
Thanks, Raphael. If I could just ask one quick question to you before we move along. While Qarbonex works mainly in Quebec, do you feel like the rest of Canada will have the same challenges as you mentioned?
I guess yes, I guess so. I think, like I said, but there's provinces that are, if I talk about the network availability, there's provinces that are more there's like the gas grid is more is spread more than in the province. Social acceptability, I think it's the same thing everywhere. maybe in Ontario it's more common because there's so many of those plants and people know about it. But I think we're all gonna have the same challenges for sure. Yeah.
Great, thank you. So then moving on to our next presentation is David Baton. David Baton is a business development manager for the biogas sector with BAEUR Compressors.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. Do you see my screen? It's okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So thank you again to BiogasWorld to give me the opportunity to talk on this webinar. Today we will talk on some technical and service and life challenges. Myself is David, working for the BAEUR Group since 1999 and be on the biogas market since 2007. I had a first experience in Europe, and now since about 7 years, I'm working in North America. So in parallel to Raphael, I will very quickly introduce my company and after talk about challenges. So BAEUR is a worldwide group, and we don't build shopper compressor. We build very niche market compressors, including breathing air, which is most the public application, and one application I don't follow, and also all the industrial like CNG, nitrogen, helium, RNG, biogas. We have been founded in 1946, and we are today at the third generation of owners. So we are about 1,200 persons in the world, and the holding is located in Germany. And from Germany, the design and built only the piston compressor and the screw itself, but not the complete package. From North America, BAEUR compressors set in Norfolk, Virginia. They are purchasing the screw and receive from Germany, and of course they keep a lot in inventory. And after they design and build the complete package for all the Americas. And you see a lot of blue spot, red spot, depending of sub-branches and service center and distributors. And it will be one of our main topic, the service and the distribution. Okay. So today we have more than 500 biogas compressors and 2,000 CNG green injection worldwide references. And these units are built in, again, in BAEUR compressors in Norfolk on the east coast of the US, completely integrated in design, administrations, build, and service. And we are 250 employees spread on 250,000 square feet factory, divided again, engineering, production, service, spares, inventory, and administrations. And to give you our just our volume, we are shipping between 300 and 400 compressors per month, all application included. And I say compressor package, turnkey units. Benefits to works, we are building locally. We are not we don't build somewhere else in Europe or China and India. And we are 100% single source responsibility, means we don't package a screw or receipt for handover. Everything is 100% BAEUR, and we offer a 2 years warranty, bumper to bumper, means spares, labor, travels included, and a 25 years lifetime support committed. This 25 years lifetime support committed is a philosophy coming from a work contract with the military, with the Navy, and with the Air Forces, where you have to make the unit run for 25 years. Okay. Especially on the biogas plant, where you can see BAEUR compressors, screw compressors to feed the membranes of the PSA systems, low pressure, 120 psig to 300 psig, grid injection boosters to inject in the grid, 300 to 1200 psig, and also virtual pipeline 5000 psig compressor. So 3 locations possible for a BAEUR compressor on the RNG plant. Okay. I like to use this picture. You will buy a compressor for 20 years. It's like for you to buy a car for 20 years and you will have to cross Canada during 20 years, east-west, 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 and be comfortable and be sure that this unit will run eternally. Today, the compressor is the guarantee of your income. Compressor is not running, you have no income. So the compressor is not the major key, but one of the major key equipment to sustain your RNG productions. So different aspects have to be considered during the selection process. And this is related to the challenge today. First, you can say the CapEx. Okay, CapEx is a visible face of the iceberg. Okay, the cost is introduced as an attractive argument during the sales. Okay, if you have a transactional philosophy and not a long-term philosophy, people can be attracted by the price only. But just know, even if it's very shiny and you have a low-cost compressor, I just want to say that this cost will be very minor in terms of the total cost on the compressor on the 20 years. The main cost of your compressors will be during your 20 years of operations. OPEX means spare parts, service. Power consumption is also very important. And today, sometimes, I should say it's the hidden face of the iceberg. A third point I would like to mention is indirect cost. Just think, one day you have one compressor fail, you have no income. How many times you have to lose it and losing revenues per day before to start it again. And there is, I should say, a very last point on the compressor technology is the fugitive gases. On some technology, very cheap technology, the compressor is losing part of its gas to the atmosphere. It's a few percentage, but this few percentage is also hidden cost. Okay. So now, how to face this three challenge? Okay, so you have to consider in Canada, especially a big temperature window, so your compressor has to run from -40°C to +40°C. You have to consider some technical safety, snow load. Snow load can be very important, okay? And human safety, serviceability and access. We have a couple of units running in Alberta, BC, Ontario, and one previous in Quebec. And we lack this integration in containers. So first, to resist to snow load, first to manage the outdoor cold and outdoor hot in different manners, and also for your technicians to intervene in safe conditions and not to have to dismount the compressor from with the feet in the snow. So Canadian weather is already a challenge, and for that we have some design able to answer. Standards, different regulation following the province. So it's a learning curve, and we are working with a local engineering company to approve the compressor to run in Canada. We have some partner in BC, Alberta, Quebec, Ontario, and they're stamping for us. So when we deliver the compressor is already delivered and won't be stopped on the startup because there's missing some administration stamps. And environmental aspect, again, is ask you the question, do you compress 100 of your gas in the compressor, and how many you have at the discharge? So CapEx already a challenge, but we have the solutions. OPEX challenges. So now I have a compressor who start. I have to make it run for 20 years. And I have to be sure of some points. First, the cost. So your supplier have to be fully transparent on the service periodicity and contents. And we provide cost of the complete 20 years, of course, with the price on the year. We cannot We cannot have a prediction on the inflations, but for 20 years, we know what will happen on your compressor and what will be the cost. And you have to bring a complete lifetime cycle and not the easy part of the lifetime. I already seen some people bringing only some cost for the 2 first years. No, you have to consider the 20 years. Not only that, okay, so you have to run your compressor 8,400 hours per year. What will be the availability? 95%, 98%? You will stop 3% of the time for the service. It's something you have to ask. And now in Canada, spare origins, where are your spares? Are your spares in Canada? Are your spares in US? Are your spares in Europe? It's something you really have to take care. Lead time. What is the lead time of your spares? Spares available in 24 hours, 1 month, 3 months. What will be the reactivity? What will be your service provider? Today, we develop some service provider partnerships in the main provinces of the Canada, BC, Alberta, Ontario, and Quebec. But one challenge is to still develop this service provider, because we have to be sure that you have somebody quickly on your site. At the end of the day, about the power consumption, and power consumption can reach 50 to 60% of your cost of the compressor, is your efficiency optimization and do so heat recovery. So vendor commitment is very, very, very important. And again, your challenge, if you set somewhere, if you set a energy plant somewhere outskirts in the deep country, be sure you have your spares very quickly. Be sure who will repair your spare. Please anticipate the life of your compressors. There's some example with containers, open skid, again, and some showcases. Yeah. Thank you, Ryan.
Great. Thanks so much for your presentation, David, and the extensive look at the CapEx and OpEx challenges.
Yeah.
So with BAEUR working in so many countries, do you see that Canada has some specific commercial challenges? And do you think that's similar to some of the other countries that BAEUR works?
You say in terms of commercials, Ryan?
Sorry, commercial challenges.
Commercial challenges. Today, the Canadian market is still a market who's setting itself. So people are organizing. I see some company like Qarbonex coming in. It's good. You see some. You have to have more companies able to help the project developers and to give to project developers the big pictures of the RNG market site plant. Again, I think you need. I think Canada needs more project developers at date. Yeah, and these project developers to be supported by engineering company. After, in terms of the compressor side, my market is very focused on as an equipment, not like a big project. So I have my sales already defined. My sales schema already defined. Right? Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. So moving on then to our final presenter, Sergey Baranov is the area manager for Canada with DMT Clear Gas Solutions. The floor is yours, Sergey.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Yeah, hello, everyone. Forward thinkers of biogas industry. I'm happy to join you. Yeah, give me a second to share the screen. That's the wrong screen. I like that zoom very much. Yeah, you got my screen. Yeah, so Sergey Baranov with DMT Clear Gas Solutions, the company with 35 years of the history in biogas upgrading. Started as the family-owned business back 35 years ago, and right now one of the largest suppliers of biogas upgrading systems, so specializing in pre-treatment and biogas upgrading systems. Yeah, so I've been working with DMT for about 2 years or so far, taking care of Canada. Yeah, responsible for the sales of biogas upgrading units, but DMT also supplies liquefaction of CO2 systems, CNG, and right now we build an LNG plant, so RNG to LNG in the Netherlands. So it's a big step towards the big future. I know everybody's talking about the hydrogen future, but still all the ships and all the trucks in Europe running on the LNG. So the company that bought DMT, called Broadview Energy, so they specialize in LNG transportation, cryogenic containers, and trade. So that's kind of the vision we have, is like building RNG to LNG and moving further along the chain. Yeah, so talking about the opportunities in the biogas industry, I think Raphael and David already mentioned the good points on that, but also I wanted to highlight that, because I'm always comparing Canada with our main market in Europe. So the sweet spot for DMT is, of course, agricultural, dairy ADs. But right now we see lots of inquiries from pulp and paper, or for example, the Brewdog Brewery in UK that was shortlisted as the best project of the year in the Birmingham, UK biogas show. So there's a lot of different applications for biogas operators, like breweries, etc. Talking about Canada, we still have only one biogas upgrading systems installed in Hamilton, wastewater treatment plant, if we're looking at the wastewater treatment plant industries. So, and the rest of 99.9% of wastewater treatment plants, biogas upgraders, they burn it in boilers, and so there's a big opportunities in the Canadian market for sure, and there's definitely we're moving in the right trajectory. SSO co-digesters, industrial applications for biogas upgraders is a big step further. So right now we see a lot of traction on that. And in terms of challenges, I would like to point on a few topics. For example, your clients may have the capital, the feedstock supply, and a gas pipe access to inject the gas. So that looks fantastic. Or even if there's no gas injection, there could be virtual piping for transportation. But I would like to focus your attention on the selection of the right upgrader supplier, biogas upgrader system. If you think about the car, you pick your car for the reason. So it's not only about driving from point A to point B, but you're also thinking about, okay, what should be the fuel consumption, or what should be the maintenance cost? Could it be a gas or a hybrid or diesel car? So, for example, I won't buy a Geely famous Chinese car just because I like its latest design, because I know that there's no service here, even if I like that car, or like why people in Canada don't drive Renault. It's one of the famous cars in France. The same point with if you walk in the biogas show, you'll see like over a dozen biogas upgrading suppliers. Everybody's interested to sell the system, but selection is kind of a big challenge for the biogas upgrader owner. So that's the point I wanted to highlight for those thinking about it. It's like to move forward to biogas upgrading is what's the requirements. For example, I picked the car because I have to squeeze 3 kids and 2 hockey bags and 1 big dog. So that's why my car is not Toyota Prius. It's a bigger car. And even if it's not efficient, I still enjoy it because I had some requirements. So the same stuff with the biogas upgrading system. If you buy the upgrader, you have to think about like how local is the company is, because the next day, my preference would be for Canadian built car or a North America built car. So because all I need to know is like if it's CSA, Canada Standards certified car, the same with the upgraders. because the electricals and the piping specs, they has to be specified with the Canadian standards. If you buy a piece of equipment from Europe, so that means a big question mark for the utility provider, a gas inspector, to check the electricals and if everything is up to the specs. The second point is select financially strong supplier. You wouldn't buy a car from a Kickstarter just because it's a nice car and it costs cheap. So you want to make sure that the company has a strong financials behind it, and it wouldn't ruin the stock market in the next day. The third point would be test drive the car. Go to the closest biogas upgrader, meet with the farmer owner, and I talk about the like how it goes with the service and maintenance. This is about this. DMT has a presence on the North American market, so we have a few references on the map. East Coast and West Coast for Canada would be Ontario and British Columbia. But we got a lot of projects right now, over 30 projects in the US. So that's where we invited all our clients to go and see the sites, talk to the biogas plant owners. And every year I'm making tours with at Seabreeze site, for example, next week on May 15th, I'm making a tour for 30 delegates, talking to the biogas plant owner, and after that, we're assuring that the system is working well and understanding everything in a few hours of the site visit. So never call for the reference check. Usually visit the site. That's the best. And make sure the company supplies the pre-treatment under one umbrella, because I know that many biogas upgrading companies don't supply pre-treatment, but only a biogas upgrading unit, and they buy it from someone else. So in DMT, we supply it under one umbrella. Pre-treatment for H2S, ammonia, everything what is needed, as well as CNG, LNG, and liquefaction of CO2 units. So this year we're introducing CO2 units as well. So I've got so many requests right now from clients that already bought systems, biogas upgraders from someone else, and asking us to supply CO2, which we prefer not to mix apples to oranges, because in our case, we prefer to have one turnkey project. And a local service. Make sure that the company provides the local service, like the maintenance team, 24/7 remote access. One of the points for our company, we just added 2 more employees taking care of the cybersecurity, because access to biogas upgrading system remotely is kind of a very high topic right now. So they are doing some firewalls and special protection for the cybersecurity. And for the equipment, making sure that the list of equipment supplied to the biogas upgrader sites is locally built. In our case, we resource all the equipment from North America, or most of them. So I would say, like Seabreeze farm, we are proud that BAEUR compressors installed at this farm as well. So we try to work only with the fabricators and service providers all across North America that provides some kind of assurance to our clients to run in the operation. As one of my clients said, if you operate the system, you earn $20,000 a day. If your system's standing still, you lose $20,000 a day. So that's a pretty simple principle that has to be in mind for every buyer of the biogas upgrading system in selection of the right supplier. Yeah, that's it. That's it from me. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Sergey. We'll just jump to a question in the chat here. What type of upgrader is best suited for selling both methane, RNG, and the CO2? So do you have any examples of CO2 recovery and sale in Canada?
So as for the CO2 units, this is a bolt-on system. So in biogas upgrading system, we just vent CO2 into the atmosphere after pretreatment. So basically, in some cases, it can be used for the greenhouses, so the good fertilizer. But moving to the next step of adding the CO2 system, that will be the next stage technology that we're providing for some of our clients. again, if there's a market demand for this CO2, if there's a greenhouses, or if there's a dry ice needed for the meat packagers, or so it's good to identify what's the application for CO2.
Great, thanks. And I guess with the conclusion of these presentations, we can open up the floor to all of our presenters. I'd like to thank each of you again for your presentations, and turning it over to the Q&A. Our first question here is, where are you seeing pricing for RNG on long-term fixed price contracts in Canada? And do you expect this to continue to increase over time?
Yeah, I can, like, this is, yeah, someone who's asking us to have a crystal ball, but we like, neither of us have it. Will depend of many factors, like what type of government will be elected in the next elections, but what I can say is that in Quebec we don't see any political parties going against the RNG, and all the parties are pretty aligned on the GHG emission reduction targets. So what we see here in the province, at least, is that it will continue to increase, and the gas distributors want to really make a statement of being a good corporation, and to decrease the GHG emission of their activities. So in Quebec, I think the targets of RNG injected in the grid will increase. By doing that, the demand will increase, and then probably the price will have to increase as well in the future. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. David or Sergey, do either of you guys want to jump in on that question?
Yeah, I'll probably have a quick answer to this. So we always comparing these prices at Canadian market with what we're dealing in Europe, because the Broadview Energy, the parent company of DMT, is trading LNG and RNG gas as well. So we estimated if we take this RNG gas as LNG and bring it to Europe, so we're gonna sell it for $60 Canadian a gigajoule. Again, there's some requirements applied to this. It has to be projects in Eastern Canada, for example, close to Montreal Seaport and Quebec City. But right now, and there's always demand rising in Europe, but in Canada it's really hard to predict. We're still somewhere around like up to $35, as Raphael mentioned.
Yeah, I think that the US market will oblige the Canadian market to increase the price of the LNG, because US market price is higher. I not really specialized, but I assume that SoCalGas is one of the highest rate of buying LNG. So I think that the US market will tend the Canadian market to a price there, to increase their price. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Checking the chat here. Question to our panelists: how is the supply chain for the equipment utilized in RNG, in the RNG plant, managed for the Canadian projects? The majority of materials and equipment are provided by subcontractors and suppliers. So how do you oversee the inventory of spare parts and critical components?
I can go, Ryan. Yeah. Today we have some local partners who are taking some spare in inventory already in Canada. I have one in BC and one in Quebec. And we expect to increase again the spare inventory in Alberta. In any case, I say at date, due to the size of the market, it's like a level 1 spares. If you have more critical spares, like something you are not supposed to change, like for instance, the pressure transmitters or a piece of fittings, it is actually in inventory in US, in Norfolk. And we tend to ship within 24 hours if it is very, very, very urgent. So first, on the spare side, we are ready, and I just want myself to increase this network by bringing more projects in Canada. On the service, we also train people to service in BC, Alberta. And actually, I'm training a company in Quebec. I brought a company in Quebec to service as well. It's something we are on the curve, but again, it's like a chicken egg. So right, more project, more spares inventory, and more service. Yeah. No, the spares are not stored in Germany or in China or in India. Yeah.
Thanks, David. Sergey, do you want to jump in on this too?
Yeah, that's a good point, David. So having the local spares stock, that's really crucial for many clients, and that's how we kind of proud working with the local suppliers, including BAEUR, just because that keeps the equipment working for many of our clients. And yeah, the only thing is like we need more sales for an RNG sector just to improve that demand to base the service teams locally nearby the sites. Yeah, that's a good point.
Great, thank you. And then I have a question for Raphael. So when assisting projects, what criteria influences a choice of supplier?
Many things. Depends on, yeah, many things. I'd say the feedstock, because suppliers is broad. Suppliers could be like upgrading system, could be anaerobic digestion, but what we look when choosing an equipment is really, does that equipment fits the need of or the specificities of this project? What are we gonna do with the digestate? How are we gonna use the digestate on land? What's the usage for the biogas? What's the usage for the CO2? What type of course, what type of feedstock we have. So the equipment would be chosen by looking at all these factors and really specifically for to answer this, like I said, the specificity of a project and the experience of the supplier for such like that specific usage. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Great, thanks. And then a question for David and Sergey. So how is the Canadian market different from other markets in your experience? And as a supplier, what suggestions might you give for new suppliers that might be looking to enter this market?
Standards, regulation, very local regulations, very specific means. I will take one example. I used to work in Europe in the past for BAEUR as well as the biogas. One compressor to be operated in France was okay to operate in Italy or in Germany. Now I was transferred in Canada, taking care of the US as well. And if you're looking to US, if you build a compressor for US, I say more or less, you equalize the standard and regulations. In Canada, you have to take care of locally. So it means one Canadian project is for us a specific project due to the regulation, to standards. We have to take care of everything, every CRN, every CSA specification and local specifications It's why we are working with local engineering company to make the approval. This is on the standard regulation side, and know about on the technical side. Again, you have every type of weathers, every type of temperatures. So you have to take care of a lot of details on your compressor design, not too frozen, not having a big snow load. If you have maybe, I don't know, for example, you have to refill oil or you have to change the oil, be sure that your technician doesn't have the legs and the feet in the snow, because he has to operate from outdoor. So let the technician enter in the container and do the operation inside the container, so it will be more comfortable, and maybe he won't leave the company. I don't know. Okay, so it's very standard, technical, and human approach. Yeah, because you manage from minus 40°C to plus 40°C, because you can have a high amount of snow, or you can have some dry weather. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, David. Sometimes I'm asked to quote projects in Alberta and they in minus 42 Celsius is kind of the weather they struggle sometimes in Edmonton or some of the around, or like the other force majeures like wildfires, etc. So there's a big and earthquakes. That's another example. It was one of the requirements in one of RFQs with the client. Was asking like, how is the equipment tolerable with the earthquakes? Like, okay, that's a good question from Ontario. Yeah, we had some kind of a shekels in the past coming from Buffalo area. So this is something to think about it. If you enter the market, you have to comply with all these kind of factors to fit the best expectations. And of course, having someone a local on the market, because I have so many questions from European suppliers, like how we can work with you guys. But yeah, well, if you want to just sell from Europe, that's a different story. If you want to sell really here in Canada, you have to present in Canada, you have to take part in the shows, and you have to work with us to be present on the market.
Great, thanks, Sergey. Okay, I'm just going to pull another question from the chat here. I guess to all of our panelists, what potential threats or obstacles do biogas projects face in the current landscape of 2024, considering factors such as technological advancements, regulatory changes, market dynamics, and socioeconomic factors? And how might stakeholders be able to mitigate these threats to ensure the continued growth and success of the industry?
That's a good question. If you don't mind, I'll start answering that. Yeah, as always, looking at the comparisons of both markets. So right now in Europe, we gained methane recovery of 99.8% methane. Meanwhile, we still sell biogas upgrader systems in Canada and US for 99.5% methane recovery. So in Europe, we are more advanced technologically. Even the cost of our equipment in Europe is cheaper than if we build it in Canada, locally built. But in any case, technologically advanced equipment, that's a good question. And that's why I raised the point, like if you work with a company supplying one piece of equipment, make sure that there are other components of technology can be added by umbrella of the same company. And if you're interested, for example, in a virtual piping, transportation of CNG gas in the future, yeah, make sure that your supplier have this capability, or LNG, or another issues, liquefaction of CO2. If you think about the second revenue stream, CO2 is like almost 40% in your biogas, which is good to sell as well. And just think about like local brewery to sell CO2, or the local meat packager that may need a CO2 for the dry ice, and they just buy it for $150 a metric ton right now. So yeah, think about if you start with something, make sure that there's other steps that the company can provide.
Yeah, on my side, I mean, I don't want to, but I don't want to repeat what like all I've said in my presentation, but I think one so I'll maybe think about another obstacle is in Canada the energy market and the energy price, and specifically in Quebec, the energy price is very low, and people and end users still want to buy clean energy at very low prices, and so there's gonna have to have kind of a shift or like incentives to increase the affordability of those projects and those type of energy, and because yeah, I mean it's green energy cannot be sold at the same price, and so there's gonna have to have some sort of a shift there, and it passes through regulation that are well like consistent with the goals of the government, and that will help those projects be more efficient and be more economically viable. And yeah.
Great, thank you. Well, we're approaching our the end of the hour now, so we can begin wrapping this up. I'd like to thank all of our presenters, David Baton at BAEUR, Raphael Duquette with Qarbonex, and Sergey Baranov with DMT Clear Gas. The questions that we did not have the chance to answer, we will address at the biogas community site and get responses back to those participants. We invite our participants here today to join us in the biogas community to keep the discussion going, and any additional questions that might come to mind. And yes, thank you again, all of our presenters and all of our participants for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Ryan.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have a good day. Bye.